So this training video is just going to be covering the settings of Agency Portal. In the previous video, we went through the recruitment management. So in this one, we will just be covering the settings of shift management. So to access your shift management settings, all you have to do is go to the shift management portal. To know if you're on the shift management portal, you will see a calendar here in the middle. And on the left-hand side, you will see these menus. So dashboard, shifts, timesheets, invoices, etc. So to go into the settings, you just have to click your profile icon in the top right corner. So that is the white circle with a person in there and a red shirt. So you click onto the icon, and then underneath it says settings. So the first tab is general. This is going to be your company information. This company information will show up on your timesheets and your invoices. So you want to make sure these are up to date. So the first thing here is your company and organization name, the email address of your agency, the phone number, fax if you have one, and then the logo. So if the logo does change, you just have to click on this box and then upload a new one. Your business address. So here you can put your postcode and then it will search for the rest of the address. Then you have your organization type. So you can choose limited company, not-for-profit, partnership, sole trader. Then you got your company number, VAT. So if you're VAT registered and the majority of your clients are VAT registered, or maybe you just need to apply VAT on your invoices. So if you're in a situation where you are VAT registered and you need to apply VAT on your invoices, make sure that you do tick this box. And then you put your VAT number in, and then you choose the 20% VAT rate. And then at the bottom of the page, make sure you update that. So what this does here is having this ticked will mean that all your invoices going forward will automatically apply VAT. So this could be an issue because some of your clients might not be VAT registered. So for the ones that are not VAT registered, you would go to clients and work locations on the left-hand side. You would then click on the client that isn't VAT registered. So in this case, it's Manchester Care Home. And then you go to edit profile. And then underneath here, you have a section called VAT. So this box here would not appear if this was not ticked in the settings. So because this is ticked, that means this enable VAT option has appeared. So when it appears, it is automatically ticked. So that means going forward now, any invoice that you create from Manchester Care Home will automatically apply a 20% VAT rate on the invoice. So because this client isn't VAT registered, whereas you are, you're going to want to come here, untick this box, and then click update. So that means going forward now, any invoice you create for this care home will not automatically apply VAT. But if you're not VAT registered, then you can ignore all this and just keep it unticked. Underneath is your organization description. So you can just put whatever description you want here. Your postal address. So if your postal address is the same as your business address, then you can just tick this box underneath. Then you have your bank details. So this section will appear on your invoices. So whatever you put in these boxes and click save, this will appear on any invoice that you send to your client. So at the bottom of the invoice, it will have your bank details. So that way they know what your bank details are and they can send you the money directly. SMS sender ID, this is basically just the text message that's going to appear, or the text message name. So if I send someone a text message using Agency Portal, the sender ID will be called AP Home. So that way they know who is texting them. For subdomain name, make sure that you don't really make any changes to this because it will impact your candidate registration form that's on your website, if you have it on your website. So let's say on my website, I have one called agencyportal.agencyportal.co.uk, and then my register button takes me to this link, carehometest.agencyportal.co.uk/candidate register. If I change this to something else and save that, it's going to break the connection that's on my website, meaning I'll have to contact 300 Media and ask them to update the link. So in short, don't make changes to subdomain name. If you do go through a complete rebrand and you need to change this, just contact the support team and then we'll make this change for you and make sure that it's properly updated on your website as well. So that's it for the general tab. Next one is trial settings. Sometimes you'll have access to this and sometimes you might not. Basically, all it does, it just gives you access to certain features on the system. By default, all of these are ticked, so you don't actually need to ever go in here and make changes unless you don't want to have access to something. So let's say here I am currently on my trial and I no longer want to use the invoice system. What I can do here is just go into trial settings, untick this box and click update. That will then remove the invoice system off my portal. But because you're currently paying for it or you already have access to agency portal, there's no real reason to remove these features. Next one is system settings. So you have this section here called invoicing. What this does, basically it just lets you know what your next invoice number is going to be. So right now I have created 54 invoices on the system. So that's why the counter is at 54. So that means the next invoice that I create on my system will be number 55. So if I change this to, let's say, 99, and then click save, the next invoice that I create will be number 100. Invoice due date is pretty straightforward. It just lets you know on the system when an invoice is now overdue. So if I go to my list of invoices on the left-hand side, you can see here I have these invoices that are overdue by 40 days, 50 days, 70 days, etc. So if I were to change this invoice due dates to 100 and then click save, I would expect that none of these invoices would be now overdue because they would still be within that, invoice due date period. So the default number is 7, but you can make changes to any of these if you want to. So that way it fits, the system that you're trying to operate. So if you prefer to do invoices on a monthly basis, then you could change this to 31, for example. Payment advice, this is going to be the generic message that comes up on your invoices. So if you leave this as blank, the default message will be thank you for your business. So that thank you for your business line appears at the bottom of your invoice when you send it to your client. So if you want to put any kind of specific message on here for all your invoices going forward, maybe thank you for your business. Please pay within 7 days to the bank accounts at the bottom of the page. So if you want to put something like this, that means going forward now, any invoice that you send to your clients will include this message here. You have this feature called shift cancellation for employees. So what I usually do in the training sessions is that I would explain this and then I would turn this setting off. Because what this does here is it allows your employees to cancel shifts using their mobile phone app. So if you were to book one of your employees onto a shift, they will actually have the option from their phone to cancel that shift to say that they no longer want it. That can cause issues because, next day down the line when you wake up, half your employees might have cancelled their shifts. And that just leaves you the morning to try and find replacements. And then there's a time limit. So that time limit here is set as 60 minutes by default. So if I have a shift that starts in 30 minutes time, I will not be able to cancel that shift. But if it starts 2 hours from now, I can cancel the shift because it's after the 60 minutes. So the max timer that you can set is 240 minutes, which is 4 hours. But again, 4 hours is not really enough time. If you were to wake up in the morning and then you find out that your shifts were cancelled. So that would leave you having to find replacements. So the best practice would be to disable this feature and then click save. So that means your employees cannot cancel shifts using their phone. They have to call you and then you have to take them off the shift. So that gives you full control of, taking employees off your shifts. The next one is timesheet cycle. So the default value that you should set is 7 days on a Monday. So this means every Monday, my timesheets are going to cycle after 7 days. So let's say I have 10 shifts in the next 10 days. 7 of those shifts will be in one cycle because that's Monday to Sunday. And then the remaining 3 will be on a new timesheet. So once I've done my week of shifts, I expect to see 7 shifts on one timesheet. And then the next 3 shifts or 4 shifts that I've got, I expect them to see on the next timesheet because that is now cycled to the next week on that following Monday. So that way you can just keep your timesheets on a week by week basis. If you do want to change it, you can change it to every 2 weeks or you can change it to once a month. Next one is mobile app settings. So we have a feature here called geofencing. If you activate this, it means that your employees have to clock in at a certain radius from your care home. So when you set up your care homes later on, which will be done in the training session, you're going to be setting an address for that care home. So when your employees take shifts from their phone and they try to clock in, they have to be within 200 meters, as dictated in this box. They have to be within 200 meters of that care home to clock in. If they're outside of that radius, they will not be able to clock into their shift. So that's what the geofencing does. It makes it so your employees need to be within a certain radius to clock in. And then you have something here called shift acceptance time limit. So when you're booking your employees onto shifts, this basically just gives them a time limit of what they have to accept. So the max amount is 60 minutes. So if you were to request one of your employees to take a shift, they will have 60 minutes to choose yes or no. Next one is shift reminder. So if I am booked onto a shift and that shift is going to start 60 minutes from now, then it's going to send me a reminder. And you can click on this little icon here and it explains it in more detail. So it's going to send that reminder by email, app notification, or SMS. The last part of the mobile app settings is the mobile number. So this is a support section on the mobile phone app. So when your employees log into their phone and they go to a section called Profile, at the bottom there'll be a section called Contact Support. So in case they don't have your phone number saved, they can find it on the app for whatever number you put in this box. Next one is coverage. So this was covered in the recruitment training video, but we'll quickly go over it here. Let's say that you're now operating in a new city. So right now you can see these are the cities that I currently cover, hence the name coverage. So I have clients in Glasgow, Sheffield, London, Liverpool, and Manchester. But let's say I've now expanded. We're going to add, we'll add Leeds to this list. So we're going to say we have now expanded to Leeds because we have just signed a contract with a care home in Leeds. So what you're going to want to do now is come here to the settings, to coverage, and click add new. So in the address, you could put the name of the client, but you might have more than one client down the line in Leeds. So what I usually do here is just put the name of the city, which is Leeds. You put a radius. Just a reminder, the radius does not matter. Even if you put 100, it's just going to show a big circle. If you put 20, it's going to show a smaller circle. It does not matter if your employees or your clients are in this circle or not. All it is just for you to see on the map where Leeds is. So when you're zoomed out and you're looking at where all your clients are based, it's going to show you a bunch of blue circles. So again, it does not matter what you put for the radius. The area name is what matters because this is what they're all going to see. So here we're just going to call it Leeds with a capital L and click save. So now I have a new coverage called Leads. So if I open up my candidate registration form here, so this is the form that would be on your website so your candidates can register. Now when I go to the section called work areas, I can now start hiring people in Leeds because I have now added Leeds to my list of coverages. Next one is job roles. So this was also covered in the training session, but we're going to go more in depth here for this video. So what you do is, let's say we need a new job role, because right now we have nurses, support workers, and healthcare assistants. We're going to say we've now expanded and we want to add, we're just going to say doctor on here. So let's say we're now hiring doctors and we now supply doctors to care homes. So what you do is you go to job roles, you click add new, and then you fill in the boxes. So the only part that your candidates are going to see is the job role name. They're not going to see the rest of this information that we're going to cover in a little bit. So for now, you just want to give it the job role name, which is doctor. So this is all they're going to see on the form. They're not going to see the rest of this information. The rest of this that we're about to discuss now is more to do with your invoices, nothing to do with the candidates themselves. So for the late booking fee, this is going to allow you to apply a fee on your invoices that you send to your clients. Let's say I try to create a shift right now. Let's say my Manchester care home, they've had an emergency and they need to have a new nurse come in. And let's say that shift needs to start 1 hour from now. That is really short notice and you could class that as an emergency shift. So what you would do here is you would go to your dashboard and you would create that shift anyway for your client. So you would choose your client, which is Manchester Care Home, choose the branch, then choose the role, so nurse. And because right now it's 2:35, we're going to say that shift that they need starts at 3 o'clock. and we'll say ends at 8. So you can see underneath we have this box here called late booking fee. If you tick this box, all it's going to do is apply a late booking fee when that invoice is generated. Because you're basically saying here, this shift starts too soon, they've not given us enough notice, and we're going to class it as an emergency shift. So here, we're going to charge our client extra money because it's a late booking. So that amount that's going to be charged is up to you. You're going to be the one here that sets that amount. But you're going to have to make sure that your client knows about this amount. So that would be, discussed in the contract or the client agreement form. So just for an example's sake, we're going to say that fee is £30. So if I tick this box and click save, that shift will get created, my employee will do their shift, and then when it's finished, the timesheet will get generated. Once we approve that timesheet, it's then going to generate the invoice. So on that invoice, it's automatically going to apply an extra £30 because we have this box ticked. So that's all it does. It's just applying a late booking fee onto our shift. So even though maybe for this doctor role, maybe we only charge £20 an hour. Let's say that shift was 10 hours long, so we're going to charge our clients £200. Instead of them being charged £200, they're actually going to be charged £230 because it's 200 from the invoice, the shift itself, and then an extra 30 because it was an emergency shift and we ticked this box here. So that's all it does. And then you have a section called notice period before shifts. Basically what this does is going to allow you to automatically apply this fee when it's your client creating the shift. Not you, but your client. If you're the one that's creating the shift, you're going to have to manually tick this box. But when you set your clients up on Agency Portal, this is something we're going to do in the training session later on. But once your client has been set up on the system, they will actually get sent login details automatically. And you can come here and you can log in as the client so you can see what they have access to. So right now, this is what Agency Portal looks like from my client's perspective. So you can see here, they have access to the shift management. So they only have access to 3 things: shift management, timesheets, and invoices, nothing else. Let's say your client is the one that creates the shift. Instead of calling you, they're the one that went out of their way to create the shift. So they come here on Friday the 24th, and they choose their branch, choose the job role, and then let's say that shift starts at 3 o'clock and ends at 8 o'clock, just like before, and a 30-minute break. You can see here, they do not have a box called late booking fee, because if your client had the choice, they're not going to opt in to charging themselves extra money. It's just unlikely that they would do that. So what we've done here on Agency Portal is that we've removed it when it's your client is the one that's creating the shift. But here you can apply a timer. So we're going to say that timer is 2 hours. So that's 120 minutes. So if your client tries to create a shift that falls within 120 minutes from when they're creating that shift, it will automatically apply the £30 fee. So because this shift starts at 3 o'clock and right now it's 2:38, that means the shift is going to start 22 minutes from now. So that falls within that 120-minute limit. So that means they are going to be applied that extra £30 fee. But if that emergency shift doesn't actually start until, let's say, 5 o'clock, that is more than 2 hours from now. So they will not be subjected to a £30 fee. Your clients have other access to Agency Portal as well. So the next one is timesheets. So they can view and approve and download timesheets, but they cannot make edits. Only you can edit the timesheet. So you can see here we have a pending timesheet for John Smith. If I click onto this as the client, the only option I have here is to approve it. And I can also download the timesheets as well once they've been approved. So they cannot create timesheets, they cannot edit them, only you have access to do that. They can just view and approve timesheets that are relevant to their own branches. And lastly is invoices. They're going to have access to see every invoice on the system that you've approved for this care home. So all the invoices are here, and it's only going to show approved ones. So if you've got a newly generated invoice and that's still in the draft stage, they will not have access to that until you've approved it. So all they can do is click on the invoice, view and email it. They can't do anything else with the invoice itself. So that's all your clients have access to on Agency Portal. They can create shifts, view and approve timesheets, and view and download invoices. Nothing else. They do not have access to your employees' information. They can only see the employees that can take shifts at their branch, such as John Smith and Simon Smith in this case. But they cannot click on them to view any information. So that's it when it comes to your clients and Agency Portal. So what we're going to do here is we're going to remove this just to keep it simple so we can avoid any issues for now. So we're going to set it as 0. So there's no late booking fee. So the next thing now is also connected to your invoices. This is going to be you setting up your rates. So that way your invoices are automated. So just for example's sake, we're going to say it's £20 an hour on a Monday from, we're going to say 7 a.m. is our start time of our daytime, and then 7 p.m. is our end time. You want to make sure that these line up. You want to be 12-hour cycles, otherwise you may run into issues with your invoices down the line. So it's important that you set your daytime from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. Or you can do 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. As long as it's 12 hours, that's completely fine. And then the next one, so we got the agency rate. We're going to say we're charging our clients here £20 an hour, and we're going to pay our employees, we're going to say £13 an hour, just as an example. Once you've done your Monday, just tick the box at the top called Apply to All, and then that's going to fill in the rest for you. So Monday all the way until Sunday, and then public holidays. So you can see now, when you generate an invoice, it's going to charge them this amount. So if your shift was from, let's say, 3 p.m. until 7 p.m., it's going to charge a client 5 hours of your daytime rate at £20 an hour on the invoice. But maybe on a Saturday, Sunday, and a public holiday, you charge more than 20 for this doctor job role. So all you have to do here is edit the amount on their role. So on a Saturday, we actually charge £22, and same on a Sunday, and on a public holiday, we charge 25. And then we can pay our employees extra as well for that, because it's a weekend and a public holiday. So now you can see how your invoices are going to know what they should charge. So if that shift is on a Saturday, your client will be charged £22. If it's on a Friday, they'll be charged £20 an hour. Your clients can only see the agency rate. They do not know how much you're going to pay your employees. So they cannot see this, and your employees can't see any of this either. Your employees can only see the doctor job role. They're not going to know how much they get paid unless you specifically tell them, or you send them, their payslip. So they're not going to see any of this, and neither is your client. Only you can see this information here. Your client will only see the rate here once you've sent the invoice to them, or you've told them ahead of time how much you're going to charge them. But yeah, that's it for the daytime. Once you understand how the daytime works, it makes the nighttime a lot easier. So you can click next at the bottom, or you can just click nighttime at the top of the page. So you can see here the times have already been set for you. So because we set 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. as our daytime, it automatically sets 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. as our nighttime. So because our daytime is £20, we're going to say our nighttime is £25. And then we'll pay our employees £17 an hour. Actually, we'll just say 16. And then we click Apply to All. Same concept again. So change the weekends if you need to. And then that's it. That's all you have to do for your invoices. So this way, whenever you create shifts for your doctors, your invoices are automatically going to get generated and calculated for you because you set the rates up here. So if our shift falls between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., our client will be charged £25 an hour. But if it's a daytime, they'll be charged £20 an hour. So let's say we have a shift that's 6 a.m. until 3 p.m. So you can see here 6 a.m. falls before the daytime starts. So what it's actually going to do here, it's going to calculate 1 hour of the nighttime rate, so 6 a.m. till 7 p.m., and then it will calculate the remaining amount using the daytime. So on your invoice, you're going to see your shift to get split up into 2 different shifts. But technically, it's still one shift. It's just split up to show you how it's calculating those 2 rates. So that way you can see which one is your daytime rate and which one is your nighttime rate on the invoice. So when you see your shift split up or duplicated, just remember that it's supposed to do that because it's calculating your daytime and your nighttime rates. but it'll make more sense once you actually see it in practice on an invoice. But yeah, this is all you have to do for your job role. So now you just click save, and then that job role will be added to the system. So now when you refresh your registration form, people can now apply to work as a doctor in any of these locations. They can apply for more than one as well if they want to. But yeah, that's it for job roles. If you do need to make changes, just hover over the row, the three dots appear, and then you can click edit. If you do have issues saving it, just make sure that you untick the status and then you reactivate it again and then try saving. Sometimes you might get an issue that tells you that it's not active, even though it's active. So just untick it, retick, and then save. The next one is now called availability settings. So this is going to allow your employees to set their own availability by using the custom, and then the anytime. So when you first access this menu here, make sure that you do tick both of these options here. So custom and anytime. So what anytime does is it's going to automatically set all of your employees as anytime availability. So if I go to my list of employees right now, I'm going to show you an example. So I will click onto John Smith. And in the middle here, you can see it says availability. So on a Friday, he is available anytime. So all of them are set as anytime by default because we have ticked this anytime availability in the settings. So that means your employees do not need to set an availability. They do not need to set an availability before they can start picking up shifts. They can start taking shifts right away because their availability has already been set as anytime. So they can see shifts regardless of the day, regardless of the night. What custom availability does, it allows them to set their own availability from the phone app. So once you've downloaded a mobile phone app and you've logged in using your own employee account, you can log in and check your availability, and then you can set your own custom. So when you're on the phone app and you go to availability, you have to untick your anytime box that's on your phone, and then at the bottom, there'll be a selection called select times. This will allow you as the employee to set your own availability. So let's say my employee, John Smith, he actually set his availability for Saturdays as 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. We're just going to do that here just so you can see how it looks. But we're going to pretend my employee just did this right now himself. So you can see here for Saturday, it now says custom. If I click on the edit button and go to Saturday and scroll to the bottom, I can see what that custom availability is. So what my employee has done here, they've gone onto their phone and they've set their own custom availability. So because it's 7 a.m. until 7 p.m., that means on a Saturday, he will never see shifts unless it falls between these two exact times. So any shifts that starts after this time and ends before this time, he will see it, or on the same time. So he can see shifts from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. If it's a shift from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m., he will not see that shift on his system because it falls outside of his availability. So you want to make sure that you make your staff aware of this, that if they do set an availability themselves, they will not have access to see shifts that fall outside of these times. The only reason they would do this is because maybe they don't want to see night shifts. Maybe for this employee here, on a Saturday, he only wants to work between these two times, and he's tired of getting notifications during the night about night shifts. So that is the only reason why your employees would set their own custom availability, because they don't want to see certain shifts. But if your employees want to have as much shifts as possible, then you want to encourage them to always keep the anytime ticked. But that is already done by default, so they don't actually need to do anything themselves. So that's the anytime and the custom. And then at the bottom here, you have these custom availabilities that you can create. So on the mobile phone app, it's going to show these 4 availabilities because I've created them. So all you have to do here is select the type. So morning, afternoon, evening, or night. You give it a name. Let's just call it morning long. You set a time. So we're going to say that long shift is 7 a.m. until maybe 9 o'clock. Oh, then you tick the box called status and click add. It's not going to let me add that because I do already have one here called morning long. So what this means here is that we have one from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. If my employee ticks this box, that means they're setting their availability as 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. So instead of setting their own custom availability, they're just choosing an availability that I have created on the system. So that's it. It's basically you can create their availability and they can tick it, or they can set their own, or they can just leave it alone and be classed as any time so they can see all shifts regardless of the time. Next one is shift templates. So this one is really straightforward. Let's say that you regularly need to create shifts for one of your clients. In this case, Manchester Care Home. They're a care home that have specific needs. They always need morning shifts from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. So what you can do here is go into your shift template settings, click add a new, and then you create that template. So we're going to create one called Manchester, and we're going to call this one night shift. So that night shift is usually, we're going to say 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. and they have a 60-minute break. So this might be a shift that you're creating every single day, multiple times a day. So what you're doing here is creating a shift template, so you don't have to keep selecting the times every single time you create this shift. So now when I go back to my dashboard and I try to create the shift, I choose my client, choose the branch, and choose the job role. I could choose the times manually myself and scroll or, type, or I could just use the shift pattern that I had just, created. So you can see here we now have one called Manchester Night Shift. If I click onto that shift pattern, it automatically sets the times for me because this is what we just created in the settings right now. So that's going to save you a little bit of time each time you create shifts, and it's going to prevent you from accidentally clicking the wrong one as well. So yeah, that's all it does. It just loads up the times for you that you have already set in your settings in advance. Next one is notification settings. So you have 3 methods of notifying your staff and your clients. The first one is email. So you can see here these are all ticked by default because emails are completely free. The emails will not cost you any money. App notifications are also free, but SMSs are not free. But we're going to go over those in a second. So for emails, it's likely that you're going to want to keep these all ticked if you want to send emails for these things. So when you book someone onto a shift, it's going to send an email. If you cancel a shift, it's going to send an email to the employee and the client. So the reason here why you might want to disable this is, let's say I've booked my employee onto a shift today. Because I've already booked him onto the shift, I can't edit that shift. So what I need to do is remove him off the shift first and then edit it. So if you're going to be doing that, you're going to want to come here and untick this box and save it first. Then you take your employee off the shift, and then you make your changes and book him back on. And then you can change this back to on again. So what this will do here, by taking him off the shift, usually it will send an email to your client and your employee. So they might actually panic when they see this. So what you can do here is disable this so no email gets sent out in the first place. And then once you've made your change, you can turn the setting back on. So that way they will not be notified of any shift cancellation because you've taken them off the shift, you've edited that shift, and then you put your employee back on that shift. Shift expired, so it'll send an email for that. Employee welcome email. So that's going to send them an email to welcome them to the company so they can set their own password. And then the last part of email is client welcome email. So in the actual training session, when I show you how to add your clients to the system, basically what will happen here is when you add your client to the system, it will send them an email automatically with their username, password, and a link to log in. If you don't want them to receive that email, make sure you come here into the settings and you disable this client welcome email and then click save. So once you've added your client, it will not send that welcome email. The reason you might do this is because maybe you don't want your client to have access to Agency Portal. So you can prevent them from receiving the login information in the first place. So that way you don't have to go out of your way, to notify them. Oh yeah, we know you received an email about your account, but we don't want you to use that. So here you can just prevent that situation from occurring in the first place by not sending that email. Next one is SMS. So this will actually cost you a charge of 4 pence per text message. This is usually off by default, so when you do come here for the first time, you'll notice all of them are turned off. So the reason for that is that you don't want SMSs being sent out without you understanding how it works. So I'm going to explain how this works now, so that way you can activate it if it's something that you want to use. So you can see here, it's going to send an SMS each time I book someone onto a shift, each time I cancel a shift, and then each time I add an employee to the system. So on the left-hand side here, you see there's a section called SMS. So that's on the far left. So this is the SMS window. You can see how many credits you've got in the top right, says SMS credits. So you should have 200 by default. If you don't, then you can let us know. But yeah, you'll get 200 for free, which is essentially 200 text messages for free. Once you've run out of text message, it will no longer send text messages anymore, and you'll have to buy credits yourself. So you can see at the bottom here, all these text messages that it has been sending. So because I have this active in my settings, that means each time I book someone onto a shift, it will send a text message. So because it sends that text message, it's automatically going to use one of my credits. So that's why these are turned off by default, because you don't want your credits disappearing without you understanding why. So your employees are already receiving emails and app notifications for free. But if you feel like you need to send text messages as well when you book them on, then you can come here and activate this. Just keep in mind, each time you do book them onto a shift, they will receive an email, app notification, and now a text message. But because that text message is being sent, you will lose 1 credit. If you need to buy more credits, just click buy credits in the top right, and then you just use the scroll bar to decide how much you want to buy. So it's always going to be 4 pence per text message. So if you need to buy 1,000, that's £40. If you need to buy 500, that's £20. You put your bank details in and then click buy credits. So yeah, it shows you all your text messages here, who they're going out to, and if they've delivered. You can write your own text messages if you don't want to use the automated ones. So at the top, you have a button here called send a message. So you put the person's phone number in, put the text message in, or you can use the address book to look for their phone number. So if you select contacts, it's going to show you all the contacts on the system. This address book is updated automatically, so you do not need to do anything here to manage this. Whenever a client registers on the system, they will be added. Whenever a candidate registers on the system, they will be added automatically. And whenever you add employees, their number will appear here automatically as well. You can also choose a group of people. So if you want to choose all your doctors, you can select the doctor tag. Maybe you want to send a text message to all the people in Manchester, then you can send one to there as well. So it just gives you the option to send text messages. If you do select more than one, or you choose a group of people, it will send one text message for each person on there, which is essentially 1 credit for each person on the list. So that's it for text messages. Next one is then app notifications. So app notifications are free, assuming they have the app installed, they will receive these. If they don't have an app installed, then they won't receive those text messages. The app notifications. So if my employees have the app installed, they will receive shift notifications for broadcasts. If I book them onto a shift, they will receive an app notification. Shift is starting soon, notification, shift completed, shift cancelled, and timesheets being approved. They will receive app notifications for all of those. So it's just like any kind of regular notification. So, if you have like Gmail, Instagram, Facebook, etc., when you get a notification at the top of your phone, it's just like that. So those are completely free. Next one is email templates. You won't really need to make any changes here because they are set up automatically for you on the system. So you do not need to make any yourself. They are already here and they have been generated for you. But let's say you want to change the wording on one of them. That is completely fine. You come here to email templates and you just click on the one you want to. So in this case, we're going to click on the one called invoice. So new invoice. This is going to allow me to make changes to this template. So this is the email before it gets generated. So if you want to change the wording, you can add it on here. You just click in the box, add whatever wording you want, and then click update. Just make sure that you don't make any changes to anything that has a double bracket, because this is actually going to populate into whatever the client is and the invoice, etc. So if you do accidentally, let's say, remove the space here, and then you click save, that is going to break the connection in your email. So the next time you generate this email, it's actually going to say, hi, double bracket, because the connection has been broken. So make sure you avoid making changes to anything that's in a double bracket. Otherwise, it will cause issues for your future emails. But yeah, the option is here in case you do want to make changes to your templates. But like I mentioned, you don't actually need to make changes to them because they've already been set up for you. Next one is staff profile settings. So on Agency Portal, you can actually download your employees' profiles. So let's say one of my clients, they want to know about my employees. Because John Smith is going to work at a Manchester care home next week, maybe they want a little bit of information about him before he starts taking shifts. So you go to employees on the left-hand side, you click on your employee, and then that takes you to the profile view. In the top right corner here, you have the three dots. You click on that, and then it opens up a list of features. So the ones we want to focus on right now are these four in the middle. So share staff profile, share extended, download, and download extended. So the first two are the exact same as the bottom two, but one of them will download and one of them will send an email. For you to know which one is going to be on which document, this is where the settings come in. So you have profile download and extended profile download. As the name suggests, extended profile download will include more information about the employee than the regular one. For you to know that's on there, just go into the settings and go to staff profile settings. And you can see here the difference between the two profiles. So extended includes everything on the system, excluding these four, but you can add those on and click update. So now the extended includes everything on the system about that employee, whereas the short profile only includes certain information. So what you would do here is you would only download or send the short version to your clients. So that way you're not sending anything that, is breaching the GDPR, because you don't want to send anything that's private information. So make sure you go into your staff profile settings and you configure what you want to be on that short version. So maybe we don't want payment details to be on there. Maybe we want the DBS details, NMC details, and we want training. So now when I click save, the next time I download or send the short profile, it's only going to include these things listed here. Next is incident types. So this one is really straightforward. It's basically just going to allow your employees to report incidents from their mobile phone app. If I finish one of my shifts today, and let's say an accident happened at work, I can report any of these 10 accidents that happened. Or maybe I want to add a new one. What I can do is contact my agency and ask them to add a new one. So here we can see some of these are quite generic. There's one that we're missing, so we're going to add a new one. So you go to add new in the top right. Click the incident name. So we're going to call this work accident, and we're going to set it as active, and then click add. So now we have 11 incidents instead of 10. So now my employees can also report work accidents instead of just these, 10 other generic ones. If your employees do report incidents, on the left-hand side, you have a section called incidents right there. So you click onto that, and then you'll find your incidents on this list. So you can click the three dots, you can view, delete them, you can click onto it to view it, you can change the status, and you can update the notes. Next is public holidays. So you will need to keep track of the public holidays on the system. Let's say one like Good Friday. You can see here it only goes up until 2021. So you are going to have to edit this. So you hover over it, scroll to the very end, and then you click the three dots and edit. So this will allow you to make changes to Good Friday so you can add more dates on here. If you do need to add your own public holiday, let's say Eid, for example, or any other kind of public holiday, just click Add New in the top right, give it a title, give it a reason, and then you choose the number of days that it's going to be. So we're going to say Eid is 4 days. And just for example's sake, we're going to say that's in August, starting from the 1st. So that means now, from the 1st, the next 4 days are going to be classed as a public holiday. So how that's going to impact your invoices. So any shift that's done on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, they're not going to use that regular rate of £20 an hour. They're actually going to use the public holiday rate of £25 an hour, because we have classed those 4 dates as a public holiday. And then the last section is bin. So if you delete any of these sections at the top, such as an employee, they will be found here. If you delete an invoice, they will be found in the invoice bin. So you can see here, I can restore them or delete them. Same with timesheets, work locations, coverages, and incidents. So a work location is basically one of your clients. If you delete a client, they will be found here in the bin, so you do have an option to restore them or delete them. The only problem you could have here with the timesheets and invoices is that they technically still exist on the system, or actually with any of these here, any employees, invoices, timesheets. Let's say we have a shift that we completed today, and we approved it, but we forgot to make a change. Because you've approved that timesheet, it means you can no longer make changes. So what you're going to have to do here is delete that timesheet, recreate it, but when you recreate it, it's actually going to tell you that it still exists when you try to save. So you've just wasted 5 minutes of your time trying to recreate a timesheet that still exists. The reason it still exists is because it's here in the bin. So whenever you delete a timesheet that you plan on recreating, make sure you come to the settings, go to your bin, and delete it from the bin as well. And then once you recreate it, you'll have no issues about duplicates. So that's the same with invoices and employees as well. So when you delete things and you plan on recreating it, always go to the bin and make sure it's out of the bin as well. That is it for the settings now. That is the 2 training videos that you'll be watching before you do your actual training session. So you had the recruitment video, and now we've just done the settings video. If you do have any questions regarding both of the 2 videos, make sure you write notes down, and then you can ask them in the actual training session that we'll be doing on the date that you selected. So make sure these 2 videos have been watched before that training video, otherwise the training session will not really go too well. So yeah, any questions that you may have, just ask them in the actual training session, and then we can go back to these settings or back to the recruitment just to quickly highlight that part that, may have been confusing. But yeah, thank you for your watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.